Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the latest edition of the Cablecast Technical Training webinar series, where today we will be talking about network streaming sources. As I mentioned, this is a series. I know many of you are likely joining us because you are a subscriber of this series. I just want to let folks know that you can be the first one to hear about it and participate in all of these live. I will also mention that we have a lot of resources always available at support.cablecast.tv, which including our Cablecast user forum, which we would love to see all of you who are engaging with us on a regular basis and trying to really get more out of the product. You are exactly the people we would love to see posting to this user forum and really trying to help each other out. Either with features directly in Cablecast or with supplementary things that you're doing at your station in tandem with your Cablecast system. That is a great place to get engaged. I will flip this over to Ryan now to get us started.
So my name is Ryan Hickok. I am the training specialist here at Cablecast Community Media. Today we're going to be going over network streaming sources. This is a feature that we added into Cablecast 6.3 with the introduction of RTP streaming sources. But now in Cablecast 7.1, we have expanded our support for that. So we're going to be going over and talking a lot about some of the features, how to configure, how to set it up, and all of that. I do want to make a point before we even start with this, just because when we say IP streaming or network streaming, I want to make sure that everyone is clear that these are network streams sources, that these are going to be streams that you can then take and use and basically, in a sense, ingest into your Cablecast system to send out to your cable channel. And play out. So this is not a feature that is streaming your channel out there. If you're wanting to stream your channel out to different sources, we do have our Cablecast live streaming product, which is a piece of hardware. But when we're talking today, this is for streaming sources to play back out on your channel and create shows and things like that. So I just want to make sure that that is clear right off the bat. So what are we going to be talking about today? So we're going to talk about the feature overview. We're going to be talking a little bit about what the feature is and some information about it and some important tidbits with that. We're going to talk about the supported protocols that we've now expanded support for and give you some information on pros, cons, optimal times to use these. We're going to go and do a demonstration on how to configure your system to use network streaming sources, as well as showing you the process of being able to schedule them and also being able to force them using the force matrix in there. So that is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Feature overview. So with the release of Cablecast 7.1, we have expanded the capability of the different sources that we support. Like I mentioned before in Cablecast 6.3 and with the Flex line of servers, we originally only supported RTP streaming. So that was the only thing that we supported with that. That was a hardware limitation and some software limitations with that product. Now with the release of Cablecast 7.1 and the VIO servers as well, we have expanded that support list to RTP, RTMP, RTSP, HLS, and YouTube Live, which is kind of in a beta, and we'll talk more about each of those individually in a little bit. How this works is Cablecast will use your video server's outputs or your decoders on your server itself to decode the stream. So you will be using that output to play out to your cable provider and go through your system to your routing switcher and so on and so forth in there. So your Cablecast is actually using the hardware to decode that. At this point in 7.1, we do not support direct capture support, meaning setting up the live network streaming source and having it record directly to the server. At this point in time, content must be played out of the server and then re-encoded into the video server if you want to replay that stream later. So this phase 1 of release, you'll have to play it out and then re-encode it back in if you want to replay it. So let's talk about the new supported protocols, all those different alphabet names that we gave in there. So we're going to start off with RTP. So RTP stands for Real-Time Transport Protocol and is commonly supported protocol used to deliver audio and video. This was the protocol that we supported in Cablecast 6.3 on the Flex line of servers. So if some of you have already been using that, and purchase that license with your Flex server, you're very familiar with RTP on there. This is sent over networks using UDP. This will require the encoder to be able to reach the Cablecast server. So basically this is being sent from the encoder that you're using and has to then hit the Cablecast server. So you're going to want to make sure that your firewalls are configured to accept any inbound traffic on your Cablecast server itself. For use in Cablecast, the RTP stream must contain a MPEG transport stream containing the audio and video matching the above defined encoder settings. So we do have a list of that. We have a knowledge base of what encoders that we do support and some list of information on that. This is very nice to use in a local area network situation or INETs. We have seen limitations and some kind of issues if you're going over the direct internet. So if you're at away football game and you want to stream this and you're going through a mobile hotspot or something like that, this RTP is probably not a good choice for you on that situation, just because there are some issues with latency and things like that, possibly, and packet loss. So you'll see the pros and cons with this. Low latency, it's a very common protocol that you'll see with RTP. Cons with that, packet loss and network configuration. Because of the network configuration, you have to make those firewall changes, make sure that you're poking holes and getting stuff through. Next one is our RTSP. RTSP stands for Real-Time Streaming Protocol, and it is designed to control media servers. So it basically sends a play and stop command to the encoder to be able to send that. With this, basically the Cablecast server is talking to the encoder and sending that command or saying, hey, send me this, where with RTP, the encoder is sending it to the Cablecast provider. So this is kind of a little bit of an opposite in the way that it directs and talks to it with this. So again, because of this, you're going to need to make sure that there's some firewall ports open on your with your firewall between the server and the encoder on this. Summary of that, when to use. When remote location has a static IP and an RTSP server that can poke through the firewall. So if you have that IP static address or you have an RTSP server right there to be able to send that, that'd be great. When to avoid is when the remote location is unknown. So if you're going to, again, that football game, you don't know what the environment is like there, maybe that's not a good option for you. Pros with this, low latency. Again, it's another very common network protocol and can work around for firewalls better than RTP. You got a little bit more options with that. Again, cons with this, just like with your RTP, there are some packet loss and network configurations as well because of the whole firewall situation on that. So our next one is our RTMP. So RTMP stands for Real-Time Messaging Protocol. Was originally developed as Prosperity Protocol for streaming video and audio over the internet. Now, there is a limitation and a requirement with RTMP. So for using RTMP in Cablecast 7.1, this will require a third-party RTMP server, such as Wowza or Nginx RTMP. So the way that it works, and you can kind of see in our little diagram here, is the RTMP encoder, for example, like an AJ Hilo, will go up to your Wowza server, and it's stored there. Then Cablecast and your VIO server or whatever server you're using that has 7.1 on it, then we'll go up to that Wowza server and basically take it as a player that we want to pull that from that location and be able to watch that stream. So basically we're taking it as a viewer, just like any other viewer that would be pulling it up on a stream. So that's how we're pulling it in. So with RTMP, you do need that third party server for this to work. Summary of this, when to use. This is great for over the public internet when neither the encoder or the client location network configuration can be modified. So if you've got things locked down real tight, basically you don't have to poke any firewalls. You're not communicating directly between the encoder and your server as the decoder. You're basically just going up to a website and pulling that down from there. Pros with this, it's very common, requires no network configuration when the server is in a cloud, which is great. Cons, there is a higher latency with this, and it does require that third-party server. So just be mindful of that if you do want to do any sort of RTMP. Next that we have is the HLS. So HLS or HTTP live streaming is a protocol developed originally by Apple to stream live and video on demand content to iOS devices. Because of this, it is a very common protocol to use. Your Cablecast servers, if you do have a Cablecast live streamer, does create HLS streams. That's what we use. We create an HLS stream for your Cablecast live server that goes out. With the HLS, it is served over standard TCP ports in HTTP connections, usually on port 80 for HTTP and 443 for HTTPS. So depending on what you're wanting to use in there. One of the nice things with this is because, let's say you're in an area that has a lot of other Cablecast customers and you've got a football game between the two communities. Well, one of those communities is broadcasting it live. You can share that content via their live stream. You can get that HLS stream, use that, and then that way you're sharing the content between your two locations, playing that live football game between those two areas at two separate stations, which is really cool. So when to use this over the public internet, when desired stream is already available via HTTPS, so then you can also secure this. When to avoid when low latency is required with that. Pros, like we mentioned, it's a very, very common, usually no special network considerations because it usually uses the standard 80 for HTTPS or HTTP and 443 for HTTPS on there. So it's very common and no in there. Cons with this, it does have a higher latency. Pick which is best for the situation and the hardware that you have to create that. The last one that we're going to talk about here is our YouTube Live. Now, this is a beta version of support. So YouTube Live is YouTube's live streaming solution. It allows a user to set up live streams for viewing on YouTube's platform. Something to note with that, in their terms of service, rebroadcasting YouTube streams is technically against their YouTube's terms of service. So when possible, it is preferable for you to simulcast to both YouTube as well as Cablecast independently with that, so that you don't go and violate their terms of service in there. YouTube may change their API at any minute, so that could potentially break this feature at any moment. That is why we're labeling it as beta, because it could make changes. So again, if you have local communities or you have other areas that are going to be streaming something to YouTube Live, you can take in that YouTube Live URL of that video and have it play through and decode it on your system. There is another requirement that the stream also needs to be embeddable. So whoever created the stream needs to set that up. If it is not an embeddable stream, you are not able to use it. So you'd be mindful of that if you're setting up something yourself or someone else's, or if you want to NASA streaming something or like that, they might not make it embeddable, so you may not be able to use it. When to use, when you are already broadcasting to YouTube and you have limited bandwidth at an encoder site. So if you're already going to YouTube and you don't want to send it or simulcast it to your decoder a second time, just use that YouTube with that. When to avoid, and this is very key, and hopefully everybody understands this, especially in public access and community access as a whole. When it is not your content, don't use it. You want to make sure that either if it's not your content, you at least get permission. Pros with this, it's very easy to use and set up, and there's no network considerations. Cons with this, like we said, it's not officially supported by YouTube and could break at any time. So those are all the new protocols that we now support with Cablecast 7.1. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a demo. First is the configuration. So how to get the configuration of using network streams and getting your system ready to actually set it up and accept them. And then actually we'll show you creating a live stream, how to schedule it in a show record, as well as being able to force it live instantaneously manually with the force matrix. So from Cablecast and Cablecast 7.1, we're going to first go and set up our live stream to be able to be used, or our server to actually decode any of these live streams. So we're going to go to our settings, and we're first going to go to our location setting. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up a format. So the format, just like how you have a live format, a video server playback format, or VHS or DVDs, if you're still using those format, it tells the system where we're going to be getting that media source from whenever you create your show record. So in our formats, we're going to choose that, and we're going to create a new one. We can name it, and we'll just call it network stream. And then under our primitive format, there's a new one right here for network stream. So you click on that, that's now the option, and we're going to hit save. So now we've created that format. Now what we also need to do is we need to say and set it up so that we have our server decoders, our server outputs, play or be able to use that format to decode. So we're going to go to our I/O tab. We're going to go to our devices, and under my video server here, I'm going to edit that. And I now have, under my device formats, I have my video server. So it's going to play back any files or any show records that are assigned as a digital file. But we also now have our network stream as a secondary format. So it's going to use this device or this output to either play a video file off the server or when we tell it to play a network stream. So now we have our system configured to be able to use network streams. Now we need to set up our network streams. So again, under our I/O panel, under local or location settings, there's an option right here for network streams. This is going to list all the network streams that you've already configured and set up for your system. As we can see here, I've already got one in there. It's my HLS stream of Yorktown TV. To create a new stream, it's going to be real easy. Click on new, and it's going to give you some options right here. Always, always, always name your stream. Make it a unique name so that you know what it is. Like if it's a server at, or an encoder that's at the gymnasium, label it that, so on and so forth to that. So always name whatever you're going to name it. Then we have our type. So you're going to choose what flavor of stream it's going to be. So our RTP, it's also going to give you in some of these, it's going to give you an example of kind of what it looks like. So what your address should be typed in as. So here, it's going to tell you the IP address and the port that we're going to be using for that protocol to talk. HLS, we have two different ones. We have an HLS Live, and we also have an HLS VOD. So if you're doing any HLS live content, obviously use the live. If it's a replay that you can watch via VOD, you can use that option. Put in your address, put in your name on there as well. RTMP, again, same situation, put in your address. It does give you an example right in here of some of that, of how that should be formatted in there. RTSP, same way, how that RTSP stream should be formatted in your address there. And then lastly, we have our YouTube Live in there. So it's going to give you those examples of what your URL should look like, as well as in here, it's going to give us another warning, letting you know a couple of things, saying you should only be using this if you have express written permission to use the content, as well as additionally, YouTube live streams must be configured to allow embedding on other sites for the stream to be accessible. So it's going to give you that warning, making sure that you are going to do that there. We can take a quick look at my HLS one. In here, I've got my HLS Live. I named it Yorktown TV, and I put in my URL for that. So that is all set. So that is configuring your system, getting it to playback, and creating your stream. So there's two ways that we can play this. You can either manually force it using the force matrix, or you can schedule this just like any other live source or program that you want to play. So when you're creating your show, we're going to do this. We're going to go to our shows, new show. We can put in our information, my new show, so on and so forth. And under our format, we are going to choose that network stream format that we already created there. It's going to give us a little play button. Now what we need to do is we need to choose our network stream. So if we've already created that network stream, we can select the one that we want. You still need to set in your length. So if I'm going to have this go on for 30 minutes, I can have it be up for 30 minutes or whatever it may be. One nice feature as well is in the show record, if you haven't created the stream ahead of time, we can click on new and it will allow us to name it, address it, port it, and put in some of those different settings in there for you as well. So you can create it from here. So once that is all set, we can hit save. We've created our show record number 21. I'm going to go to schedule this. Let's say I want to schedule it this afternoon at 5:30. And that was show record number 21. It's going to be in there. You're going to see that it's going to have that icon indicating that it's a live source, but it's also going to be indicating that it's a network stream. So it's going to be a little bit different, kind of giving you that warning and that heads up that that is the source that it's going to be. Send autopilot just like you normally do. Forcing it is going to be really easy as well. So we're going to go to our force matrix. So autopilot, force matrix there. We have our IO panel. So our sources and our destinations across the top. So again, with our network streaming, your output of your server is what is decoding that live stream. So in my case, I've got my video server here. I have my action button. If I wanted to play a file, I'd hit play and I type in the show ID and it would manually play that show record. But we also have in here our play stream. So if I click on that, it's going to tell me which IP stream name do I want to use. So here I can say I'm going to want to play our Your Town TV stream. If I wanted to switch it to a device, so if I wanted to switch it to something or go somewhere else, I can manually set that to any location. It's already on my channel output, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to hit take. And it's going to take a second. It's going to send that play stream to my video server. And there we are. That is now Your Town TV. Bulletin board playing out of my server using HLS stream. So it's going to let you know, hey, there it is. It's doing a network stream. This is the stream that we named it. That's what it's playing. If you click on video server, it's going to give you a bigger preview and it's going to tell you some more information in here as well. So it's going to tell you this is what we're doing. This is what it's streaming from and give you that information on there. Now, if you are going to want to record this to replay back later, make sure that you have it routed like what I do right now. So it's routed. We can see it in my preview up here, and I could either schedule my recording or I can manually start my recording and have that go. And now I'm recording that stream as well so that I can schedule it for replay at a later time. Right now, if you want to record any of the live streams, we do not have a direct import option. You have to play it out of the server, route it back into your encoder on your server to be able to play it at a later point. To stop your stream, you can go back to your play CG, hit take, and it takes a second, and then it will bring back my CG on there. So there's my CG now back playing out on my channel. Real convenient. You'll be able to choose what works best for you and get it out there for you. Thank you for attending today. If you do have any questions, reach out to technical support. Support@cablecast.tv is the email address. Customer support is free of charge for the life of the product for our customers. We want you to be as successful with our product as possible, so do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you for attending, and we hope to see you next time.